Hi, I have with me Peter Gott from Sylfield Farm. How are you doing, sir?
I'm all right, thank you very much.
And now, Sylfield Farm, would you like to tell the listeners exactly where that is?
Well, we're based just outside Kendal, right next to the sort of motorway near Junction 36, and we have a small farm where we keep a few pigs and a few sheep, an odd chicken or two, laying a few eggs, and basically we take our stuff to market. And I've always done that from the farm for the last sort of 40 years, but I've actually been on Barrow Market for, I think, about 48 years. I started when I was 17.
Wow.
Yeah.
You'll have noticed some changes then.
I have, and you know, I think we saw sort of strength of supermarkets in the 90s, and I sort of closed an odd store. We were doing a cheese stall and a cheese and bacon stall, and I sort of moved out and did events, and then eventually I ended up in London at the Borough Market. I was one of the first traders to actually be on that retail market back in 1998.
Ah, right. Hence the sign at the back.
Well, people were shocked because when we went to London, you know, I know the streets weren't quite paved with gold, but there's a few quid down there. But we were from the north, and we sort of talked to people, and they were shocked, you know. And we gave them a sample, and they weren't used to that. In fact, in a funny sort of way, London was a bit of a desert. You know, in the centre of London, there was only shops of commodities and fast food. There was actually nobody that was prepared to talk to you and discuss how farming or the day or the weather. And we went down, the lads from the north, because there was Farmer Sharp and there was a guy from Ulverston with fish. I took them all down eventually. They were guests of mine. And effectively, we were the Northerners. We were nicknamed the Cumbria Mafia, but at the end of the day, we brought that humour, we brought that northern mentality of, you know, let's get on with it and let's get things done and, you know, give you some change and we'll knock you a bit off. And it went down a storm, and I have to say there were some very pleasant years that followed.
Yeah, well, that's what market life's all about. How have you coped during the lockdown? Have you managed to stay open, or how have you managed to trade?
We've kept trading, but we've done it online. Although the market was closed by the council, and obviously necessarily so, I said to the lads who were working, you know, what do you want to do? And they said, we want to keep going. So, you know, the hens still keep laying eggs. I can't say no more tomorrow. So we had to carry on with the animals were getting fat. We kept going to the abattoirs because they stayed open. And we processed actually on the market. We have our own access into the market, and the butcher opposite as well. And basically, we carried on making sausages. We carried on doing Kendal Farmers Market. But we carried on selling, and we were selling online. People were ringing up and saying, you know, can we have? And we said, of course you can. And we had a bit of a website that wasn't really effective, but we polished it up, and we did a lot more locally and a lot more nationally. So we actually haven't suffered too much. We've kept going, and in fact, in some cases, we've probably found new customers who didn't know we were there.
Right,
so we're very pleased.
Exactly, and now you're fully open, are you? The Barrow Market is
fully open now, and we're trading. We trade on a Wednesday, Friday, and a Saturday, because on a Monday I go to the abattoir, and so everything's fresh that week. So we're busy at it. We're processing on a Tuesday and a Thursday. We send a little bit of stuff out to restaurants, although that died a death. But the deliveries directly to people's houses, that was well received. And I think, you know, especially our sort of age of customer, they were glad to see something delivered safe in a box. They didn't have to go out of the house.
Yeah.
You know, we've all been through it. We've all had different understanding. My wife never went away from the premises because she's in the vulnerable category. Yeah. I still had to keep going to the abattoir and to the market at Barrow and a few deliveries. Very careful. But I think the shock was that, you know, this is everybody is involved. We were watching the news like everybody else, and it was serious stuff. And we got a bit of a bad press at Barrow, didn't we? Because we'd done a lot of testing, and you know, at the end of the day, it sort of, we were fodder for the newsworthy items that appear on television, and sadly, you know, I just think we've been very, very lucky when you look at the rest of the country. Yeah. We've escaped, I think, in Barrow, and now you're finding, I think, people are wanting to come and live there, aren't they?
So the customers have started to come back to Borough Market, have they?
Yeah, they like to come and have a natter and see what they're buying and see it go on the scale and knock them a bit off. It's back to that sort of banter.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said for ordering online, but I do like to, and I think a lot of people do, they do like to actually still shop and actually see what they're buying, because too many times I've ordered something online and it's not exactly what the picture shows, if you know what I mean. You can't beat seeing it.
I always say that market trading, 9/10 of it is by buying with your eyes. You see something and you look at it and that's what I want to buy. And I think, in a way, supermarkets have they've done a bit of that, but they've taken away that personal bit of, having a natter and maybe even asking how to cook it, it's on the label, have a look on the bag. I think, in a serious way, it's also taken away, by pre-packing and putting stuff in pack, it's taken away the ability for the customer to understand. I mean, we had some fruit and veg sellers in London who were doing £1 a ball on a Saturday afternoon. And I used to say to them, you get busy from 3 o'clock, you lads. And they said, oh, yeah, all them pinstripe suit guys are working in the city. He said, they're just the same. They come for that £1 a ball veg. But you know something, when you buy that £1 a ball, and just imagine there's some mushrooms in there, and they're a bit on the last legs, you go home, and if you haven't fried them off on Sunday morning, and you've forgotten about them, or you had a bad night, when you get up Monday morning, all them bloody mushrooms, and you look and you go, they're not fit to eat. That's why they were £1 a ball. Yet on a Sunday morning, they will probably be fantastic. And that ability to be able to discern, to tell whether it was nice and ripe and ready to use, maybe to go in a soup or something, that's been taken away from us by the best before they're used by. And I think markets where you get that sort of, well, I tell you what, if you get it sorted out, use that in the next day or two and you can have it for so much. I think there's still a lot of understanding of that. And it's actually about education as well.
Yeah, and there's also a community environment. I mean, I help out in a capacity over Christmas at the market, and I have noticed there is a community spirit amongst you all.
There absolutely is, and it's very sad when we see one of our members, pass away. We had one that recently went, Peter, the material guy, and bless him, I've known him ever since I was there. He lived to a nice age, but he went very quick. And there was real sadness when I went round to see his son. Everybody was like, oh, Peter's gone, That's the community we have. We care for each other, and that caring actually passes over into the customer. We care about our customers as well.
Most definitely. Now, we're here to talk about Positive Barrow, which Paula is keen to promote, and we're all keen to promote here on Candu FM, because we are the local community radio station. Now, apparently you've got some information about some new ideas that are going to be brought into the market in Barrow.
Yeah, well, I've seen a little bit of it on Huddle Hub, and I've talked with the lady in charge in the market, Jackie Armstrong, and effectively we've got some real investment coming our way, but also making the shopping of today available in the Barrow market. So we've got open areas, we've got eating, food and drink areas, a lot of what you might expect in a modern market. I was involved in a little bit of consultancy work in Preston Market, and we saw that come out of the old 1971 building, similar to ours, a bit like one of them Arndale centres, that type of thing, and it was revamped and put into the old undercover market. And I was involved in interviewing all the old traders, seeing some of it through to its present day, and so I could see how the positive side for the market, the customers and the traders became available. I mean, even though I'm a market trader, I've been involved in a few markets up and down the country. Leicester was another one, and in London, obviously, the Borough Market, where I traded. We did consultancy work for Islington on Whitecross Street, which was a street market. I think there's no doubt about it, markets are my forte. I mean, I've traded, even went out to Italy in the 90s and traded on a market in Florence. Wow. Did that over a 3-year period. 1994, traded in Holland, in Den Bosch, selling British stuff. And I have to say, markets even though the language could be different, the country could be different, it's a spirit that's there, the camaraderie. I think the hardest one was Paris, traded in southeast Paris at Port d'Orly, in that area. And the typical attitude was, I would say pork pie, and they would say, we have better, because the French are passionate about their food.
Yes, they are.
But I'm very pleased to have traded in quite a lot of places. We even took the Borough Market. I was involved in taking the Borough Market out to Barcelona, to the Boqueria.
Yeah.
And we traded there for a weekend with our wares. I was selling Cumberland salsicha, which is Cumberland sausage, black pudding and all that sort of stuff. So I was proud to be an ambassador for the Northwest.
Absolutely wonderful. Any idea of a timeline with these new ideas? Are they this year?
I think it's yet to be decided. I mean, I'd like to think that certainly ongoing within the next 5 years. I think there's a funny thing, really. We've lost a few good retail stores, and I think we're at a point now where we've got to bring out the new sketchbook, a blank screen, as it were, a blank canvas, and go forward. So the sooner the better. And I think everybody would welcome that. And there's a lot of good things about that, because you've got no baggage to bring with you. You can sort things out and get things done. And I think, what's left in the market are the hardened, determined traders who want to go forward. The positive side is as well, we've got a lot of younger generation having a go. Don't forget that's something very important to markets. It's where somebody can think of an idea and have a go, and without committing to a lease on a shop or something like that, they can go and have a go on a market. And the council are very positive towards young traders. I'm also a non-exec director of the National Market Traders Federation, which with 40,000 members throughout the country, and we have a very strong push on the young traders, culminating in regional young trader finals, and then the big final in Stratford-on-Avon. So if there's any young traders between 18 and 30 who really feel that they want to have a go, contact us in the market, and effectively they could become their own bosses in their own business going forward. It doesn't happen overnight, but I think that's another thing about markets. They've got that opportunity to have that person have a go.
Most definitely. Absolutely wonderful talking to you, Peter. You must come into the studio one day when we're back interviewing live. I'd love to chat to you a bit more about your market tales.
Well, yes, there is a few.
Yes. Anyway, I wish you all the very best, and let's hope Barrow Market gets these ideas up and running as soon as possible.
Absolutely. Thank you, Russell.